Hello. First, thank you for being here. My name's Claire Dixon and I lead the global PR team at Visit Scotland. I'll show you a rogues gallery of action shots in just a second because it's always nice to have faces to go with names for my team too. But we're a team of 10 people and our entire job is to get Scotland talked about. Not advertised, talked about. In newspapers, magazines, travel supplements, podcasts, digital features, and broadcast pieces. The kind of coverage that makes someone put down their phone and say to their partner, "We should go there." We work with travel and lifestyle media all over the world, from the big nationals to niche titles that reach exactly the right kind of reader. We pitch stories, host journalists, build relationships, and, on a good day, which I'm glad to say is most days, we land the kind of coverage that no budget in the world could buy outright. And that's actually what I want to talk to you about today. Because here's the thing. We do this job on behalf of Scotland as a destination, but the stories we need, they come from you, from businesses like yours. And in my experience, the best stories are sitting right there, in your buildings, in your history, in what your staff gets up to, in the thing your guests always say as they're leaving. So today's session is about helping you to see what you've got and then understanding how to use it. Here we go, I promised a rogues gallery, and here we are, working the PR magic in all sorts of different locations. There's never a dull moment in PR. So, why PR and why it matters more than you think? I want to start here because it matters, and because PR is genuinely one of the most misunderstood tools in the marketing mix. Ask most small tourism businesses where they spend their marketing energy, and they'll say social media, maybe some paid digital, possibly email, which is fine, all of that has great value. But PR does something fundamentally different, and I think it's worth taking a minute to explain what that actually is. The short version, PR, is third-party endorsement, and third-party endorsement is the most trusted form of communication that exists. When you post on Instagram, people know you wrote it. When you run a Facebook ad, they know you paid for it. But when a respected travel journalist writes 1,200 words about why your accommodation is in the most beautiful place in Scotland, or a Sunday supplement names your restaurant as one of the best in the country, that's someone else saying it. Someone with no commercial interest in saying it. Someone whose job it is literally to have an opinion. That credibility is extraordinary, and it's very hard to replicate. What PR can deliver? So there's also the reach to consider. A piece in a major UK travel supplement might reach 2, 3, 4 million readers. A feature in a high-end US lifestyle magazine might be talking to exactly the affluent, culturally curious, long-haul traveller we're trying to attract. A placement on a German travel platform, a piece in an Australian broadsheet. These are genuine windows into markets that are incredibly difficult and expensive to reach any other way. And then there's the longevity. Social posts have a lifespan of hours. A great editorial feature lives online indefinitely. It ranks in search, it gets shared. People screenshot it, save it, email it to their friends. Pieces written years ago that are still driving inquiries for business. Here's a lovely example. We worked with the business to host a French journalist. The journalist enjoyed it greatly and wrote about it. Later in the year, French tourists arrive at said business, clutching the article that seduced them and convinced them to book. Now, I'm not here to tell you that PR is the only thing that matters. It isn't. But I'm going to suggest that it can be chronically undervalued, and that's partly because the results aren't always as immediate or easy to measure as a click. We're going to talk about that too. But first, let's talk about what makes something worth writing about in the first place. So what makes a good story in 2026? This is the bit people always find most useful, so I'm going to spend some time here. It is, after all, the title of today's webinar. Let me tell you first what a story isn't. It isn't we've just refurbished our bedrooms. A story isn't we're now taking bookings for summer. A story isn't we offer stunning views and exceptional service. I know that maybe feels harsh, but from a journalist's perspective, none of that is news. None of that gives them anything to hang a feature on. So what is a story? Firstly, stories have a human being in them. The most powerful travel stories are about people, not properties, people. The fourth-generation family who've run the same distillery since 1887 and have never once changed the recipe. The former marine biologist who gave up academia to open a small boat wildlife company and can tell you more about the local ecosystem than anyone else alive. The head chef who grew up eating her grandmother's recipes and built an entire menu around them. That's a story. That's the thing a journalist can write a feature around, a broadcaster can build a segment on. So ask yourself, who are the people in your business? What's their story and why are they there? Second, stories are specific. Specificity is everything. Beautiful Highland scenery tells a journalist nothing. But the only place in mainland Scotland where you can watch from your guest bedroom window while ospreys fish, now we're talking. The more specific you can be, the more useful you are to a journalist and the more vivid the eventual piece. Think about what is genuinely, specifically true about your place, not aspirationally true, actually true. What can you do, offer, show, or say that nobody else can? Third up, stories have a why now. Journalism is, at its core, about timeliness. So when you're pitching a story or giving us something to pitch, it helps to have a hook. A significant anniversary, a new offering, a cultural moment your business connects to, a trend you're ahead of. Number 4, stories are visual. This one's more important than it used to be. Travel journalism has always been visual, but the relationship between editorial and image has never been tighter. Journalists need to be able to see the story. Digital editors need strong imagery. So when you think about your story, think about what it looks like. What's the picture? What's the scene that someone would want to spend time in? And number 5, stories are true. I know that sounds obvious, but I'll say it anyway. The worst thing you can do is overstate something. Journalists visit, they fact check, they talk to your staff. If your story is, we're completely off grid, but you've got a diesel generator humming round the back, they'll find it and they'll remember it, and it'll colour every interaction you have with them for years. So tell the truth about what makes you interesting. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be honest, specific, and genuinely worth the trip. So what's trending in travel media right now? In 2026, the trends that are really driving travel media interest are things like slow travel and meaningful experiences over ticking boxes. Wellness, not just spa weekends, but genuine nature-based, unplugged well-being. Sustainability with substance, not greenwashing. Journalists are very good at sniffing that out. Food provenance and authenticity. Wild spaces and what it actually means to be in them. Community and the local economy. A special access, money can't buy experience. Or something that qualifies as super quirky. Think golden spurtles, sleeping with bees, or abseiling out of a kelpie. If your business connects genuinely to any of those, and many of you will, that's your angle. Feel free to put in the chat if any of those feel relevant to what you do. Here are a few examples to illustrate what makes a story, and believe me, I could spend the rest of the webinar just sharing these with you. I'll flick through them for now, and you can come back to them in your own time in greater detail. So, now that I've bragged a little bit with all that beautiful media coverage and hopefully illustrated my previous point, let's move on to the practical bit, which is important because we genuinely can't do our jobs without you. We pitch Scotland, but Scotland is made up of businesses, places, people, and experiences. When a journalist asks us, what's new and interesting in the Cairngorms, we need to be able to give them 3 specific, compelling answers. If we don't know what you're doing, we can't put you in that conversation, and it's that simple. So here's how the relationship works and what you can do to make the most of it. Keep us in the loop. It doesn't need to be formal or frequent. A quick email when something changes, a new experience you're launching, an award you've won, or a new hire who has an interesting background, a collaboration you're doing with a local producer. All of that is useful to us. We're not going to use everything you send, but we're building a picture. And sometimes the thing you mention almost as an aside turns out to be exactly the hook a journalist has been looking for. Don't wait until you have a fully formed press release. You probably don't even need a press release. Just tell us what's going on. Think in seasons. Journalists work well ahead. A Sunday supplement travel editor is often planning 3 to 4 months in advance. So if you've got something coming for summer, tell us in late winter. If you've got a fantastic winter offering, talk to us in August. I know that can feel weird when you're deep in the day-to-day of running a business, but it's one of the most valuable habits you can build. Support our press visits. This is one of the most important things I can ask of you, so I'm going to come back to it in the next slide. Be responsive. When a journalist is on a deadline, they're almost always on a deadline. The businesses that get named in pieces are the ones that reply quickly. Not necessarily the best ones, or the most PR savvy ones, but the ones that picked up the phone. So if we come to you with a journalist request, even if it's short notice, and it feels like a lot, please try to respond fast. A quick, we can do this, or we can't, but here's what we can offer instead, are both fine. What kills an opportunity is silence. You don't need to have your own marketing operation. I want to be clear about this because I think some businesses hold back from engaging with us because they feel they should have more in place first. You don't. You don't need a PR strategy, a social media manager, or a polished media kit. You need a story and a willingness to tell it. Some of the best pieces we've ever secured have come from tiny operations with no marketing budget and an incredible product. What they had was authenticity, specificity, and someone who was willing to pick up the phone and talk about what they do. If that's you, we'd love to hear from you. So, press visits and why they matter. We regularly bring journalists to Scotland. These are people who can reach hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of readers. When they visit, they need to experience Scotland, and that means experiencing businesses like yours. Sometimes that means complimentary or discounted accommodation or meals. I know that's not nothing, and I know it asks something of you, especially since editorial coverage can never be guaranteed. But I invite you to consider the return and whether supporting a media visit is something you could perhaps stretch to. A feature in a major publication from a journalist who has actually stayed with you, eaten your food, walked your land, and talked to your team. That's worth more than almost anything else you could invest in. We're talking about coverage that would cost tens of thousands in advertising, and because it's editorial, it's trusted in a way that no ad ever would be. We try to be thoughtful about who we bring and why. We don't send journalists on jolly trips to places they'll never write about. We match the journalist to the story and the story to the audience. When we ask you to be involved in a press visit, it's because we think there's a genuine, realistic opportunity to get your business in front of the right people. If you're in a position to support this, even partially, please talk to us about it. Just a quick word on measurement, because I said I'd come back to this, and so I will, really briefly. PR is sometimes criticised for being hard to measure, and honestly, it's a fair point. We don't have the clean attribution of a paid click. We can count coverage, we can measure reach and audience figures, and we can track sentiment and share of voice. What we can't always tell you is that piece led directly to X number of bookings. Some of the impact of earned media is brand level. It builds awareness, shapes perception, creates the conditions in which a traveller starts to consider Scotland and then eventually books. What I can tell you is that it works. We've seen it work for the last 20 years that I've been here. I've watched businesses transform their profile off the back of a single well-placed feature and seen destination areas go from overlooked to oversubscribed because the right journalist told the right story. The value is real, it just isn't always instant. So, summing up and a little bit of homework. Before we open up for questions, I want to leave you with 3 things to do before the end of this week. Firstly, write down 3 things about your business that are genuinely specifically true and that you're proud of. Not marketing copy, real things, the stuff you'd tell someone at dinner. Number 2, think about who the people are in your business. Your story might not be about the product at all, it might be about the person who makes it possible. And number 3, get in touch with us. Even if you don't have a story ready, and even if you're not sure, drop us an email, introduce yourself, tell us what you're doing. We want to know that you're there. travelpr@visitscotland.com is where you can find us. So here's the thing I want to leave you with today. We are actively, constantly, year-round looking for the stories that make Scotland worth the trip. We have the media relationships, the platform, and the reach, but what we need is the raw material, and that comes from you. So let's talk. Thank you very much.